Hello, everybody, and welcome to the AI podcast. My name is Arpit, and I've been working in the AI field for many years now, and I'm going to be your host. I have with me Mike. Mike,
Hey everybody, this is Mike. I have not been working in the AI field all my life like Arpit, but very invested in AI technology. I've been working in the technology field for the longest time, and AI has just really caught my attention. Arpit, just it's one of those things that I've thought about for a number of years, but never felt like it was within our grasp to be able to use it, to be able to harness it, and just with everything that's come out over these past, I would say years, but it's really months. How quickly it's iterating right now. But that's really what's got me just so in tune with AI, the capabilities, the possibilities, and just where it could go. So absolutely thrilled to be here to be part of the discussion and part of the podcast.
and you said something very true. So AI has been out there for the longest of time. I've been working in the field of AI for many years now, more than a decade. Uh, but my observation is that last 6 months of progress has kind of shadowed the last 5 years of progress. So the last 5 to 6 months of progress has been immense, and that has caused a lot of hype. And businesses are still trying to figure out, is it another hype that will go away, like the Web3, like the crypto and Bitcoin, and whatever happened with the metaverse, or is this going to stick around? Is there a true use case here, and how can we use AI to solve real business problems? And that's what we will try to do with this podcast. We will try to go beyond the hype and explain how we can keep it real. We're going to discuss how we can make it real, how businesses can leverage AI beyond the hype and use them for some real use cases. In today's episode, we're going to discuss how the customer service industry, the contact center industry, can be totally transformed by using AI, and specifically a lot of the use cases about generative AI. How can we use generative AI and AI to absolutely transform and disrupt the customer support industry as we know it?
Well, and what you said in that last piece really caught my attention as well, because I'm a big proponent of Web3 and blockchain technology. But what I think really differentiates AI is the use cases. When I look at Web3, when I look at crypto as it is today, it's very much so transactional, very much so financial use cases, and a few that are starting to emerge. But to your point with how AI can change the industry, it's really there's you can use AI in every business. You can use AI in almost every aspect of business. It's not I know we're talking about customer support today, but it's there are applications in sales, there are applications in HR, there are applications in facilities management and things that you know you and I, from a business and technology standpoint, may not have even scratched the surface on or even be thinking of yet. But that's, I think, what's really going to propel this sub industry within technology to the forefront. It's the ability to be able to leverage all these use cases across such a wide swath of commerce, of capitalism. Yeah, and that's I know I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole here, but that's really what gets me excited about it. It's just that AI, it's not a it's far less of a niche than Web3 or metaverse, or you don't have to be bought into the metaverse in order to leverage a chatbot in your business to improve customer service. That's just the phenomenal piece of it, and why I think that we'll see such rapid growth. Whereas, it seems like blockchain had its moment. It had some stumbles, and it's had a little bit of a retraction. I really get the feeling that unless we see, and this may be one of the threats to AI, unless we see government intervention, I think that the sky is the limit for where we could go and where we can take some of this technology.
Yeah, now I think you said something very interesting about government intervention. I think that is inevitable. I think that will come to AI. And I don't know if it will be the government in its current form, or if it is going to be a body that will be set up specific for AI. So think of how FDA has to approve any drug that goes out in commercial circulation. Similarly, I can very well see some governing body that will come out and will have to be set up to govern and approve any large scale model that goes into the commercial availability, and people can use it, because the application of these models can be very very dangerous if not if proper guardrails are not put and if they're not controlled properly. So we want to make sure that this technology is in the right hands and it has been designed for the right use cases. And I think it is pretty much inevitable for some sort of a governing body to come and put controls around it. And that is not anything brand new in the technology space. If you think about it, if you were to develop an Android app or an iOS app today, you can't just create something and list it on the App Store or the Play Store. You have to go through an approval process. Currently, because that ecosystem is controlled by Apple and Google for Android, these are the Apple and Google are the companies that do that approval cycle, right? They control the ecosystem and they approve it. But for something like machine learning running over the internet, nobody controls the internet, but there has to be some governance around what can be put out there in the wild. So I think it will happen, and it will probably create a safer environment for us to do research. It should not slow down research, but it should create it should provide more confidence and create a safer environment for us to do the research. And some a lot of the use cases would emerge as a process, as part of that process.
Typically, when you have a solution and a technology that requires a governing body, you're onto something. So
We'll see how things play out. Let's talk about customer service. I think customer service as an industry is going to get completely transformed. Generative AI will just increase the efficiency by immensely in that industry. Thousands of jobs may be lost, or in other words, people will be doing much smarter, much more creative work, much more complex work, and a lot of the basic customer support query kind of jobs would be automated. Either people will be out of jobs or people will be forced to upskill and do more creative, more complex jobs. But I definitely see an AI agent of some sort, a virtual agent, can be trained very easily. And we're going to go into some of these use cases, but at a high level, I think the efficiency of the customer support, customer service industry is going to increase quite a bit.
yeah, and I think when you yeah when you think about AI and chatbots, when I'm thinking about like sort of the live agent or the NLP based chatbot, they're we've already seen the I don't know, training wheels AI, when you have your rule based chatbots that you ask it a few questions on a website and then it's like, would you like me to connect you to a rep? Would you like me to email sales? The just very basic responses. And I don't know what those statistics are, but I guarantee that just that very basic, rule based bot replaced employees. The lower rungs. When you have this intelligent AI that can answer questions, that can potentially understand if a customer is pissed off at you or calling with a complaint, and take the proper action. Um, I can see how that could very easily replace a lot of jobs. I think the more what I'd rather maybe see happen is the what you were also alluding to, sort of the upskilling of talent, or the ability to sort of quasi leverage AI in your job to just get more done.
So other people on the other side of the equation are the customers. So companies get better efficiency, get better productivity. uh, Employees, some of them will get automated, and that is true with every technology, every automation that comes around. A lot of them will improvise, get creative, get upskilled, and do better jobs. But some employees will suffer. But the customers also benefit, because the customers will have a better customer experience. Now you don't have to wait in line because you're waiting for somebody, so the average call wait times will reduce. Virtual agents can be scaled horizontally, and you can talk to a virtual agent right away. The average length of call would be reduced because you can just ask a question and get a response. You don't have to go press one for this, two for that, and three for that. You can just ask a question in natural language and get a response. Also, it'll be the responses can be personalized and hyper personalized. So if you are calling, I know exactly who you are, what's your call, what your purchase history is, what your behavior is, and I can personalize the response for you. So there are all these different advantages. You can scale horizontally, you can have better customer experience, you can have better efficiency. So that's high level at the how the companies benefit and how the customers benefit out of this technology. Let's do this. Let's go deeper into some of these use cases.
We just touched on virtual agents. Yeah, I think that would be the first one, is that most widely discussed use case is chatbots.
Right. So somebody can call, and in the back end, instead of talking to a person, you talk directly to a chatbot or a virtual agent. And this virtual agent can respond based on the data that it has access to, the systems it has access to. So that's now possible with AI. That has been possible for some time, but now it is taking new meaning with the bot or the agent being able to answer all sorts of questions using the generative AI technology.
And tell me a little bit about the back end on that, Arpit, because I know we've all been on websites where we have chatbots, and again, I talked briefly about sort of those rule based, now archaic type chatbots that we've seen in the past. But how easy, like, can it be served? Can you serve an AI chatbot up on any website, on any mobile app? You mentioned also being able to call and connect with them. So is it just built into your existing infrastructure, or how's that work?
So a lot of the companies, for example, Google has a product called Dialogflow, and they have a platform called the Contact Center AI. Similarly, many other hyperscalers and many other companies have platforms, and generative AI is going to basically sit alongside with those platforms. And these platforms have ready integrations right now. They can integrate into platforms like Google Chat or Microsoft Teams. They can integrate into phone, WhatsApp, Facebook chat, whatnot, right? So anybody can call into it. You can have a contact center software, talk to these agents and so on and so forth. So very rich set of integrations are already out there in the market, between different hyperscalers and different specialist providers who work in this contact center space. And generative AI will just go and sit alongside their backend system, and it will, you can provide access to all of your documentation, all of your data, to a system running a large language model. So when the question comes in, the AI system can understand the intent that you have. Let's say you ask, hey AI, what's my bill and how can I pay it? Right. So the intent might be that you want to talk, you want to understand what your bill is, and the entity might be you as a user is Mike, and the information that you're trying to find out is Bill. So I understand what the intent is, I understand what the entity is. Can I go into my database, go into the FAQ, and maybe go into the database and find out for your user what is the bill amount and serve that right away? Right. So the technology is out there to do all of that now. And also you can take actions, you can integrate APIs in the backend. So the ecosystem is now pretty rich, and the virtual agents can actually pretty much do end-to-end transactions. So one example that we were having with a pizza company, like a QSR, quick service restaurant, a few months ago, is if I say I want to repeat my order from yesterday, now, the chatbot is able to understand who you are, what was your order yesterday, what is your address, what is your billing information, complete the transaction with that just one prompt. By understanding what you are trying to do, what's your address, what's your order, and how to fulfill it, where to deliver it, where to charge it, all of that. So you say, you repeat my order from yesterday, the chatbot says, okay, done, the order will be there with you in 20 minutes. And that's it. That's how easy it gets to order a pizza. And that's just one example in the consumer space, but the examples in the business space are huge. There are too many of them.
Well, and that makes me think. I know you've you've been in AI and machine learning your entire career. So this is, old hat to you in a way, but how you make it sound extremely easy to set it all up. What actually, what goes into connecting all these things? Is it the hyperscalers are providing like ready-made solutions, or is it more so you know how to build these things again because of your expertise in the industry, frankly?
Right. So what hyperscalers provide to you is some sort of a framework. So it is they provide to you with models. So for example, Google provides the Palm model. It's a large language model that can scale, and it is deployed in Google's infrastructure, so it can scale horizontally. You can have any number of calls to the model. And then what you got to and what it provides is, let's say, the Dialogflow or the CCI platform, which has all the integrations with Salesforce on the front end, and maybe the phone lines and so on. So there is a quite a bit of plumbing that is provided by the hyperscalers in different shape and form. But there's a lot of business logic that needs to be coded, right? That's where companies hire consulting companies. Businesses hire consulting companies to build those workflows out. And that what that looks like is you got to build a data layer where all of your data resides, and this might be your FAQ documents or your billing systems or whatever CRM systems, etc. On top of that, you got to build some sort of a transformation layer and an intelligence layer, so the data is in a form that can be read by the virtual agents. And then once the question comes in, you can, let's say, parse it through something like Dialogflow, understand what the structure of the question is, or the LLM can do that as well. And then that LLM can let's say there is a search index that you create, and then there is a document repository. So some of this have to be built. There are products now and there are solutions, but a lot of this might also be custom if a company wants to do it. So you can go and search in your index. It'll point you to the right document. You can take the document, the LLM can summarize that and provide the response to the customer. So what hyperscalers provide to you is a framework for integrating the front end and integrating the LLM. The backend work is probably something every company will have to do, because every company's data sources are unique. There are some connectors which are now starting to evolve. Like a company might have Salesforce, and that might be a natural connector for somebody to think about, etc. But a lot of the backend plumbing will have to be done. The components are there, but it'll have to be built based on your use case and how you want to do it.
Right. And I think you said it perfect with back end plumbing, because it sounds very much so like, the infrastructure for a new development in construction. You've got electric lines run up to the house. You've got plumbing run to the house, but they still have to build the frame. They still have to rough in the plumbing, put in the electrical wiring, put in the duct work and everything else. So it's like the hyperscalers have everything that you need to the house. But now how do you put the refining, into the building? So how do you build your ideal sort of well, whether it's a natural language agent or chatbot or just your not personal, but I guess your specific AI tooling.
Right. And so that brings, let me talk about the second point in a second use case that we had on our list, which is the same plumbing that you do in the backend. So once you design your backend system, you can expose the front end multi-way. So now you can provide multi-channel support. Let's say somebody only had a contact center where somebody could call and get a response. Let's say you're a bank and you have a call center set up with 1,000 agents, and people can call and ask questions like phone banking. Now you can convert the same system with the same backend into different channels. So if you want to do a chatbot inside your app, or if you want to do a chatbot on WhatsApp, or if you want to do a phone call, or even let's say a call using your app which goes over the internet. So there are all these different channels that you can integrate now with the same backend. So which was not possible below. It is possible now because a lot of the things are being automated. Previously you would have to have a separate chat channel, and there would be people trained on chat, and they'll be sitting and replying to chat in person. And then there'll be separate people trained on phone and accent and so on, and they'll be replying to phone calls. So now a lot of that goes away, and you can build multi-channel experience with the same backend.
So in that case, the way I kind of envision it is through this multi-channel, or yeah, you're basically meeting the customer where they are. Like if they call and you get you get the feeling that they're extremely perturbed, or it's a problem type situation, and you don't have any, let's say your call queue's filled up, you don't have a live agent that can take a call. The AI would then what, route that to a chat channel, route that to just the next available, just for a better overall customer experience. Is that sort of the thought behind it?
So the thought is you make the user journey as seamless as possible, right? So if the you say let's say the use case is a bank, and I'm a customer, and I'm the user of the bank's app, and I'm working on the app, and I see something fishy, and I want to report a transaction and ask something from the support. I Instead of calling and waiting and so on, now you can just chat with the support agent there itself within the mobile banking app, right? And then you're chatting and chatting, and then say, you know what, let me call you, and you press one button, and you get transferred to the call. And by the way, when you're chatting with the virtual bot, virtual agent. When you're calling, you can call to the same virtual agent. So it's not the other way around, like you said, that if the call is full, then if the call queue is full, then you get transferred to the virtual agent. You talk to the virtual agent first, and chances are that 80% of the volume is from 20% of the use cases. So chances are you would be one of those 80%, and your needs would be fulfilled by the virtual agent, because AI is smart enough to answer a lot of those questions. And then if your answer is if your question is something very complex, then it goes to a human agent who has he or she might be able to solve that. In the experience that I was explaining, right, somebody's on the mobile banking, and they can chat here, and then they can switch on to call or whatnot. The other thing that they can do is not only multi-channel but also multimodal. So let's say I am chatting, and then I say, you know what, here is a screenshot, and I can take the screenshot of the mobile banking and just send it there. So you can not only chat, you can chat and text, you can chat in images, and you can phone call it. So there is audio, there is text, there is images. You can take video of something and send that. And then all of that, yes, a human could interpret all of that in any case previously. So it was matter of implementing the multi-model conversation channel. But now the virtual agent can understand all of that, right? So the virtual agent can look at the screenshot and understand what are you talking about, what is the transaction amount, and so on and so forth, and respond. Oh, looks like this transaction is not fraudulent. You had purchased this item at that store, and here is the date and time and the map location and so on. So because the virtual agent can understand the image, it can understand the text, it can understand the audio.
That makes even more sense. And I was missing the connection there of start chatting with a virtual agent and then have a voice call with a virtual agent. I was going right to, the again, it's that archaic chat bot that I'm used to that moves me right to a person. But again, now you're still meeting the customer with their ideal media, with the way that they like to communicate, with the most effective way to solve their problem, but not necessarily leveraging another warm body when you have the AI agent. That's awesome.
And it's going to take some time. People are used to seeing a small chatbot on the bottom right and get right of any web page, any website, and getting irritated. Oh, let me take this out of my way, and I want to look at the website. And that is because most of these chatbots don't work. They are clunky, they have a few canned responses, but the technology is changing now. Now you can actually get very smart responses, and it can actually help you solve your problems. So the technology has evolved quite a bit in the last few years.
And sort of going a little bit deeper into that, that brings me to our next use case, which is really, I think, uh, a tribute, I guess, to the to the intelligence that gets put into some of these chatbots and just these AI systems, and that comes down to the personalization that is possible with AI. I know I heard you touch on it briefly, just in a sort of uh, high level use case of personalization. So now when I think of that, I think of I go to a website and it's almost like I've got my, if it's a retail site, I've got my personal shopper there with me. Like you were saying with the the voice reorder. Order. I'd like to order the same thing I had yesterday, but from a personalization level, they know exactly what I had the last time I was on this site. They know what food I ordered, what clothes I bought, what I regularly consume from these sites. So again, now it's just able to provide a much more targeted customer experience to where, and you think about, there's a stat or a phrase that, the sweetest sound to a human's ears is their own first name, because we're so hyper personalized. So now I can go to Amazon and it doesn't just say hello Mike in the corner, but it splashes Mike, and here's the top 10 that we curated just for you based on all of your shopping history, and we know you like 1 day delivery, and we know we're not going to show you anything but prime options, and like, yeah, just very tailored, very personalized down to, this is the weather that we're expecting in your location. And guess what? We know that you typically vacation, maybe these 3 weeks of the summer. So we're going to, send you stuff for this as well. Just thinking about the personalization is just, I think that's an amazing stride in the customer experience. And that's how you can really build those recurring customers, recurring purchases, those lifelong customers, and extremely, raise that lifelong value of the customer. If you can make some good predictive analysis on how long they're going to be a customer because of these efforts. So, yeah, I'd just love to hear your thoughts, Arpit, on personalization and how that will come into play.
Right. So personalization has been the main feature or the main advantage of companies and businesses like Amazon and Spotify and so on, and Netflix and so on. But now think of personalization in terms of customer support, right? So you call customer support. Let's say you have a Verizon phone line, and there's something wrong, or you want to call the utility company because you see something wrong, and you, on the other side, they know exactly who you are, they know exactly where your house is, what is your usage pattern, what internet packs do you have, or what is the weather where you are, or is there an outage in the area where you are, etc. And also, like, you looks like you take lots of flights and you fly to Europe a lot for business, but you don't have international roaming. You could be a good candidate for this Europe specific international roaming pack. So they have all this knowledge of what you are, who you are, and what your persona is, what others like you prefer, and what you might like. So the call itself can be very, very personalized. So when you're talking to, when you're chatting to, when you're calling to a virtual agent, the virtual agent can respond to you in a very personalized way. So the same question that you ask and the same question that I ask, we might get very different responses, and those responses are curated just for you. They are not canned responses, and that's where the customer service industry will be absolutely transformed by personalization. And this is not something which was even possible in the manual, like in the human customer service agent era, because it is extremely hard for the human agent to understand your entire history while you are talking to them, right? So they might do some personalization, which is like soft touch. Oh, how, hi Mike, how are you? Oh, where are you from? Oh, looks like the weather is nice there, whatever, right? But this guy, the virtual agent, understands your entire history, all the information that it has about you, and it can tailor every response based on your preferences. So that's, it's going to totally transform it.
Oh, I just was thinking of a personal use case with support, and I won't disparage any companies here, but it's a large electronics retailer, and I still shop there for whatever reason. But I have spent literal hours on the phone with support, and every time you get transferred to another agent who's supposed to be able to help you better, they never have any recollection of what you talked with the previous agent about, whether they don't have documentation, or they don't share it, or or it's just not readily available. But I just think of that, like, if I get transferred to another live agent and that agent gets a an AI agent to basically just tell them what my biggest gripes are. This is how long this person's been on the phone. Here's where they are. Here's the next step to solve it. anything that, that can personalize and shorten that process is very welcome in my mind.
Right. I'll give you another example of personalization, which might be our what number fifth at this point use case, which is the caller intent prediction. So I can personalize the response to you even before I pick up the phone. So let's say I'm a virtual agent. I see you're calling me, and as soon as I pick up the phone, I know who you are. Let's say it's a telecom company use case, right? I know who you are. What's your outstanding bill? What is the date today? Looks like it is the third of the month, and you typically call in the first week to pay your bill by phone. Now, even before you ask me anything, I can say, "Hey Mike, how are you? Are you calling to pay your bill today?" Right. So you put the intent in your face, and caller intent prediction. So as soon as you ask, I can as soon as you call, I can ask, "Hey Mike, are you calling to pay a bill?" And if that is true, if I'm able to predict it accurately, again using machine learning and AI, we can look at the data and we can build models that can predict accurately. Then you can say, "Oh yes, I am calling to pay my bill, and can you do that for me, the same payment method as last time?" And I can understand what that is, and I can process the payment, given I'm a virtual agent. uh, Now this cuts down the average length of call, which is an important metric in the customer service industry. It increases the customer experience because the customer is delighted that you know exactly what they need. And nobody likes to waste time or spend time on a customer service call. So the faster you can get to their resolution, the happier the customer is. And it is cheaper for the company to run operations because you're not spending long times on call. So that would be our next use case.
And as a customer, now I'm not sitting through those 5 voice prompts of press 1 for
Exactly.
support, press 2 to contact billing, press
Right.
3 to pull your hair out. It gets right to, I see you're calling to pay your bill. That's, yeah, that's
All right.
just adding, yeah, more predictive analytics, more predictive analysis to your entire support, your entire sort of customer function. Yeah, that's anytime you can be proactive in business, it usually pays dividends. That's what I've found.
All right, let's talk about another use case, caller ID or speaker ID authentication. When somebody calls in and the agent starts to talk, either actively or passively in the background as the caller is speaking, we can actually use machine learning to do speech recognition. So, similar to face recognition, you can now recognize whether the person who's calling is actually Michael, is actually Arpit, or is somebody trying to impersonate as the caller. And this technology is getting extremely accurate, and we are able to identify and validate whether the caller who's calling is correct or not. Even with the rise of generative AI and deep fake and people being able to generate voices, the thing with generative AI generated content is that AI is very good at identifying it. So AI can very easily identify that the content which is being generated is synthetic or is actually an original voice. And that's another use case. Maybe that's the use case number six, speaker ID authentication.
And yeah, I was curious. The first thing that came to mind was if you're verifying by voice, I've seen enough of those deep fakes. I've heard enough of them as well, and they like, who is it? Morgan Freeman. You can do a very good deep fake of Morgan Freeman's voice and have it do your, I could have it do an ad for whatever for this podcast for instance. But you're saying that there's basically the caller ID authenticator AI can suss out the fact that this is a deep fake, that it was generated by AI. Okay.
Right, right. So the speaker ID AI is actually pretty good at identifying whether this voice is human or deep faked, and also if it is the right human for which we have a voice fingerprint or not. So you basically, when you register for this service, the first time it will record what you're saying, and it might ask you to say a few phrases, and it'll create a voice print of you. And then the next time when you call in, it will try to identify whether or not it is the same person or somebody else.
I like it. I like it because I can already see how it could simplify my life when I if I lose a password or if I lose a um I was actually traveling, lost access to my primary cell phone. The screen just went blank. Couldn't see it all day. Needed to catch a flight, needed to authenticate on my Google Voice on my Chromebook just so I could call a cab to come pick me up and take me to the airport. And it was an absolute mess trying to it got to the point where I had to call a cab. I couldn't get Lyft, couldn't get Uber because I got everything set up. I authenticated and then they wanted me to take pictures of my photo ID with my phone and I had a Chromebook with no front-facing camera. So it was a mess. If I could have simply called in and said, "It's me. Check it out." Verify me and be back up and running on my Chromebook, it would have been a much more restful trip. But
And there is something that you said which brings me to another use case number 7. You said Morgan Freeman can take your call, and that's exactly what my next use case is, which is brand voice. Now imagine Ryan Reynolds. He just sold Mint Mobile, but he's the founder and the brand ambassador of Mint Mobile. Now let's say I'm a Mint Mobile customer and I call customer care for any questions that I have. And guess who answers the call? Ryan Reynolds, because you can now generate voices, and every company can generate, can create brands around certain brand ambassador. So, if your brand ambassador is Morgan Freeman, you can have Morgan Freeman answering each and every customer service call and talking to people and responding to their queries, because now voices can be generated, custom voices can be generated on the fly. So that would be my next one.
and well, I guess, and I don't know if you have insight on this, but where do you reach the line on like who owns Morgan Freeman's voice? Is it copyrighted or can any company use like a famous sounding, because it kind of does add a little clout to your brand voice too, but it would be not necessarily accurate.
Right, right. So I think this area is still very new, but the way I see it evolving is similar to how an artist might give rights to a song to a recording company or to a publisher, or a writer might give rights to their book to a publisher. Similarly, artists should be able to give rights to their voice for a specific use case to a specific company, right? So in our example, Morgan Freeman might be able to give rights to use his voice for this use case in a particular scenario to a particular brand, and then they can use it. So that's how I think it'll happen. It is The space is still very new. These models are still to mature, but that's what I see it happening very soon.
Very cool. And even if you're not going with the famous voice or the actor, the songwriter, whatever it might be, I can see how you could tailor, every so basically every interaction sort of embodies your company's values, your company's ethos, whatever it might be. Like you can have that enthusiastic person on the phone every time somebody calls in because that it's just a very I like the use case. It makes sense. It gives a level of continuity to sort of every customer service interaction.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. So, a friend of mine used to work at a contact center, and he used to tell me that there are many hours of accent training that they have to take, because when, let's say, he's working from India and he's working for a brand that's an American brand. So, if an American calls in, the customer service agent wants to sound natural and doesn't want to have a very thick Indian accent because he's from India or she's from India. Now that problem gets solved because now you have the exact voice that you want there with exact accent, because everything is AI generated. And then also, so the entire like accent training function goes away, right? And then also, brands have a very specific persona that they portray for the company, right? So you can imagine a gaming company's persona might be very different from a bank's persona, from a healthcare life sciences company's persona, etc. So that also can be right part of the, who you are as a company and your values, like you said, and that can be part of your brand voice.
Right, right. Yeah, Bank of New York and a new flashy startup are going to have a very different
Correct.
brand voice, a very different method or message that they want to get out there as well with that brand voice. Kind of leads me into the next one that we've got here. If you're like to talk about the compassionate virtual agents, an AI agent with empathy, an AI agent that can, and I think it goes into other use cases that we've touched on, like sentiment analysis and things like that, where it's like it's picking up all of the context clues that are coming at him and just acting more like a human than even some humans can. Like it's a really interesting use case to me. I think it's big in I see the implementation the biggest in healthcare. As a fun stat, I saw a study recently where um, they used Chat GPT to answer. It was basically like a collection of FAQs um, from licensed physicians, and they used Chat GPT. And then when the responses were analyzed, there was a it was 79% of healthcare professionals felt that the AI generated responses were of higher quality and more empathetic than the actual, live doctors in the room. And it's
Right. So
yeah, that makes sense to me. I've I've been around too many of those sort of stuffed shirts that can't take a joke or or whatever it might be. They're just so focused on the maybe the illness rather than the patient, and this kind of flips that script.
yeah, how many times do we call a customer service agent and get the exact answer that we're looking for, right? And there are cases when somebody might get frustrated, but it is important that a virtual agent is able to identify that, right? So if somebody calls in and says, "Hey, virtual agent, can you please explain why my bill is higher this month?" is a very natural question, and some the virtual agent should be able to answer that. But on the other side, somebody might call in and say, "Hey, virtual agent, why the hell is my bill so high?" And that is a separate, the sentiment there is different. The agent should be able to understand what the sentiment is and act accordingly, right? So the agent that's where the compassionate virtual agent can make it very real, and serve a different response, or probably offer them a discount for this time, or offer them to talk to a human or something else, or offer them a higher plan, or something like that, to make sure that you can reduce customer churn, you can increase customer loyalty, and create a sticky brand. On a similar note, as understanding sentiment and then acting accordingly, is the whole sentiment analytics of your contact center. So that would probably be our ninth use case now. So it is slightly different, the two use cases. One is during the transaction, can you understand the sentiment and act accordingly? And the second one is overall big picture, how do you understand what product has had which sentiment, what campaign, which launch has had what kind of sentiment, and overall how has the sentiment of the user changed about a particular product, about a particular feature, about a particular campaign, and then design strategies to increase brand loyalty and customer liking of your products and features, and so on and so forth. So overall, because a lot of this is AI and data driven, you can collect a lot of data and analyze the sentiment at large and make it contextual. So I want to understand what is customer sentiment about this particular feature that we had launched on X date. And we can say, people with certain demographic features, age group, gender, whatever, they loved it. But people from this didn't. Or maybe if it's a bank, let's say the bank can say our high net value customers loved it, our moderate to lower value customers did not love it, or vice versa, or whatever, right? So you can then design strategies and say, okay, this needs to be targeted here or there, and so on and so forth. So
Right,
that
right.
would
It allows you to serve the right either marketing message, the right support type message, whatever it might be to that specific demographic. And it also I see how it would also help you to not alienate, the the group of customers that doesn't like receiving this type of communication from your company or, had a very poor experience with a product. Like by understanding that sentiment, that's how you can make it right from a customer support standpoint. Or it may also tell you, "Hey, we've got to ramp up our, our hiring for support desk because there's a lot of people that are not happy with our latest release, and we're going to be getting a lot more calls."
Right. And also maybe just understand the sentiment that people attach to your responses. So you changed your model slightly, your AI model that is generating responses, and that improved the sentiment of the people who are talking to the virtual agent, or that reduces. So how is your virtual agent, how is your contact center doing? Even the quantification of that in terms of, are people happy? So you don't have to send a survey. Did you like the conversation with us? Now you can analyze that based on how they are talking to you, and so on and so forth.
Right, and I would imagine through the sentiment analysis, you're gonna get maybe more honest answers than you would, or more honest feedback than you would if you were to send out a survey. People, there's
Right.
just something about that customer satisfaction, or even worse, when you send it out and give them a free gift card. You know,
Right.
you're sort of tainting the results a little bit.
I'm gonna give you $10. Can you give me a good review?
Right. Yeah, we'll give you a free set of cookware if you if you say this was a great launch. Um,
Right.
but yeah, I see how it would just give you more sort of accurate native feedback. No, yeah, just nothing to sort of taint that experience. You're getting it, real raw from your customers through the sentiment analysis. Kind of going off of, I know we've been talking a lot about the virtual agents and understanding sort of what's coming into your call center, but the next use case that comes to mind, I think it's our 10th, would be just language translation and multilingual support from AI. Translate things into the native language. So if I'm a Spanish speaker and I call into a US call center, you can meet me in my language. You can, the agent, the virtual agent, can translate everything that I say into English to a live agent, and vice versa.
Have you ever dialed a customer service number and heard press one for English, two for Spanish, and so on and so forth? Now, what happens right now is companies that operate in different geographies, and deal with customers from different backgrounds, they have to set up contact centers with real people who can understand different languages. And that's not even the trickiest part. The trickiest part is they should be able to understand your product and your offerings coming from those different language backgrounds, and then being able to serve your customers, right? Virtual agents can solve them. You can just create one virtual agent backend with a common knowledge base, with a common set of systems. That systems might natively be in English, so your virtual agent can front end conversations in any language, right? So the same virtual agent, with a flip of a switch, can now talk to a Mexican person in Spanish, to an Indian in Hindi, to a American in English, to a British person in British English, and so on and so forth. So language translation and being able to provide multilingual support comes natively with AI and generative AI. All right, great. So multilingual support. The next one is a 24/7 support. So this one is pretty self-explanatory. You don't need a huge army of people to provide around the clock support. You can now just scale up your current virtual agents using AI, because there's nobody there. It's virtual, so you can just scale it, horizontally scale it, and have as many people call you at any point in time as you need it, and it just works.
Yep, and I think that's huge. It just kind of levels the playing field for maybe the up and coming company, or the small or medium business who, yeah, like you're saying, they may not have the funding to ramp up with a full army of customer service reps when needed. But
Right.
by, yeah, duplicating the virtual agents, having 24/7 support, they can still maybe not compete with some of the cash cows out there as far as investments, but they can still provide that same level of service, that same level of support that customers may have been used to from, the bigger players, the enterprise players in the space.
Right, and you can do this with a great customer experience. So you don't even like, There is no call wait time, so please wait for the next available representative. That thing goes away. And you get faster responses and shorter calls and better experience at scale, 24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, just having the no wait time, that alone is a blessing in itself.
Now, the next one is my favorite, right? So virtual agents can solve a lot, as we've talked about in the last, I don't know, more than almost an hour, half an hour, more than half an hour. But there are still human agents, and human agents are still needed. And some customers still prefer and would probably continue to prefer talking to a human agent. But then, how do you simplify that conversation? How do you simplify that transaction and make it richer using AI? And that's our next use case number 12, I think. That is agent assist. And the way that would work is, let's say you are a customer, I'm an agent, and you ask a question, hey agent, what is my can you break down my bill for me? I don't understand what is that charge of $12, let's say. And there is no AI here, you asking me, the human agent. What happens is AI is listening to it in the background, right? And instead of giving the response to you, the response is being flashed on my screen here, and I can read it off of that screen. So as soon as you say, hey agent, can you break down my bill for me this time? Why do I have that extra line item? What does that mean? As soon as you say that, I can say, hi Mike, this is the breakdown of your bill and this is what that means, and we have offers, and it will recommend to me what offers I can give you and what correction methods I can give you. And then you might say, you know what, this is fine, can you upgrade my can you upgrade my package, can you upgrade my plan or whatever, right? And at the same time, the again the AI is listening. It will suggest to me, click here to confirm the request by Mike to upgrade the plan. As soon as I say confirm, I say, Mike, are you sure you want to confirm? You say yes, I confirm, and that's it, your transaction happens. So the what this enables is, the human agent is able to do much intelligent conversations, because the responses, he or she doesn't have to look for responses, and the responses are right there in my face, and I can have a much richer conversation with the customer as an agent.
Well, and I'll interject because the one thing with the agent assist, it sounds like it would also be great for coaching, or just having the ability to sort of not just flash the data, but maybe like I think about it from a sales standpoint, or reaching out to customers. Like if the AI can give you those assists, those tips that, hey, he's giving you buying signals, he or she, like, now's the time to go for the close, now's the time to move on to the next whatever, like, that's I could just see those use cases coming up as well with agent assist, sort of that over the shoulder expert to help your live agents, your live call center folks, whatever it might be.
And let's make that our point number 13. So faster training for human agents. So you picked up a very good point. So one thing about customer service is that the churn is very high, people leave very fast. That industry has a lot of iteration, and so naturally you have to hire a lot of people, and then you have to train those people. And this technology, like you said, helps in training, speeds up the training time, reduces the onboarding time, uh, improves the customer service, because now you can hyper personalize and give the exact answer that the customer should be looking for. And also reduces the average length of call and average wait time, because as soon as the customer asks the question, the response is ready there, and the agent doesn't have to scramble and look for the right response, or please hold while I figure out what the response is. All of that goes away.
Right. And so I think I'm sure this is apparent to other folks as well, but it's just when I think about all these different solutions, Arpit, it's just like I feel like, and I more about the back end building, but it's like even with the faster training, like the ROI is
Yeah.
built into the solution. Like if you can get agents trained and ready to go in 1 week over two, or 2 weeks over a month of onboarding, or whatever it might be, like that's significant. That's huge when you're looking at bottom line, you're looking at budgets. And yeah, to me it just feels like AI, again, I we talk a lot about these use cases, but it's like it's primed to really transform a number of industries, starting,
Right.
and yeah, I think the biggest use case is again in customer service. that we're talking about today.
Right, right, right. Let's talk about one more use case about customer service, and that's about knowledge management. Knowledge management has been a problem that people are trying to solve for, many years, and LLMs and generative AI is probably the answer to the questions that the management professionals have been trying to answer for the last 3 decades. So, can we take all the knowledge in an enterprise and just ask questions when we have a problem? How do you organize the information that exists in an enterprise so that people can query it, people can ask questions, and people can get to answers? And generative AI has something called embeddings, and embeddings help solve this, right? So if you have a ton of user manuals, documentation, but when you have problem, like, it's very hard for you to get response. Let me take an example, right? Let's say you go to your car in the morning, right, and it's cold outside, is 30 degrees, and you turn on your car from your cell phone. You have a wireless connectivity in the car, and you turn it on just to heat it up. And then when you go into the car, you see that the check engine light is on. Now you have two options, right? You have to go and drop your daughter to school, but your check engine light is on. You're not sure if you should drive or not. You have two options. Either you could open the driver's manual and start reading it, user manual, from your glove compartment, or you could call the dealership and wait for the dealership to find out, and they can probably not do it remotely. So they'll ask you to come, and they'll ask a ton of questions, or they would come. But it is inevitable that your daughter will probably miss the school, right? Because now early in the morning, you don't know what to do, and so on. Instead, imagine if, as soon as you turn on the car from your phone gets a notification and says, "Hey Mike, looks like the check engine light is on. Did you want me to diagnose and see what's happening?" And you say, "Yeah, sure, please do that." And then it might diagnose and say, "You know what, looks like your cruise control sensor is a problem. Are you near your car? Can you go and check this sensor, or this fuse box, or this whatever button?" And you say, "Yeah, looks okay." So it might say, "Okay, it looks like you will have to get it to your nearest dealer. You can still drive it today, just don't use the cruise control. Did you want me to book your appointment with your closest dealer? Here are the options." And it might, you might be chatting with it and book the next appointment. It can look at a calendar availability, and done, right? So you don't have to look through the manual. Using generative AI, the model can look at the documentation, understand what's going on, diagnose the car, chat with you, make the appointments, make sure it is safe, it is not safe, what can you use, what can you not use. So that totally transforms the customer support experience. Instead of going through the manual yourself, or calling a dealer who is not able to answer you there and then, now the whole experience becomes very personable and very fast.
Right. And if you're like me, you would have been spending hours on different forums trying to find out how can I fix this myself before having to go to the dealer. It's no longer under warranty. But yeah, that saves you a lot of going down those rabbit holes.
Right, and all of that information can be provided to the model. Whether or not this will void the warranty, you can ask, like, "Can I just try to pull this wire? Will it void the warranty?" And it can tell you what you are allowed to do, what you're not allowed to do. Depends on how rich you make the model. But now you have a companion that you can ask questions, and this guy can be an expert, because you can feed it all the data that there is about that car, and it can have access to the real time information from car sensors. And you can be talking to an expert for your car, for your scenario.
Well, and yeah, when I just think about on the larger scale, any product company, anybody that's got, that 100+ page product manual that, your normal support folks aren't going to know every in and out of that. But again, if everything is linked together, you have um, a virtual agent or just the ability to query all of that knowledge. Now, it doesn't matter necessarily which department, if I call into a multinational and they've got so many different business units, so many different products and businesses, thinking like a GE or something like that. Now I can, doesn't matter which department I get, that agent should be able to serve up the data that I need. Like, just again, it's just streamlines everything, streamlines the process, the customer experience. I'm not getting tossed around to 7 different agents until somebody finally figures out what niche product I'm calling about or whatever it might be.
I got another example from somebody yesterday. You can search into the Home Depot app for a 6 foot dinosaur, and there is a product out there that's a 6 foot or an 8 foot dinosaur, something like that. And if you're calling to get support on that because my dinosaur is leaking air, then the Home Depot guys would be like, "Do you want to talk to Lumber?"
Right.
So, because it's not a common product, and may not be a common problem, but if the model knows everything about every product, then you can ask the model, and the model might be able to answer.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Are you
Um,
searching for the dinosaur?
yeah, I gotta see if I can find that 6-foot dinosaur. I guarantee, my 3-foot daughter would love that. So
Yeah. All right. So that was knowledge management. Uh, Contact center insights is another one. We kind of talked about it previously when we said sentiment analysis, so kind of similar. There are a lot of matrices you can calculate about contact center, a lot of KPIs that you can gather about your contact center, and you can assess how well your contact center is doing. Is the call containment rate better? Is the self-service rate better? Is the user happiness index is better? And you can define all of those things, and AI can help you calculate all of these real time. Instead of doing surveys to understand user feedback, you can look at things like sentiment analysis, and you can look like things like how many users had their query answered. And you can have also a model that verifies the output, and assesses how good or bad the output is. So contact center insights would be another one. And actually, I kind of touched upon the next one as well, which was quality assurance. And let's say you set up a contact center agent, whether a virtual agent or a human agent, and then you want to test the contact center. You can have generative AI call the contact center and act as a customer, and then test the contact center at scale and see what the conversation is like. And you can set it up to run test cases similar to how automation testing would happen for a piece of code. Here you can test your contact center with, let's say, 1,000 calls running in parallel, asking different variations of questions based on what is possible on user manual. On the other side, your virtual agent, you can see if it is able to answer or not, and then your model can grade the answers based on the correctness, because you know what those answers are because they're coming from the test case. So just testing and quality assurance of your contact center agents.
So basically, I could have an AI customer call an AI agent and testing the effectiveness of how my AI agent answers specific or AI questions. It's now we're getting into some Inception type, but that's
Right.
I love that because again, like it's more effective, it's more efficient. You're not taking up the time of 20 employees to be making test calls. They can be training, answering call, whatever it might be, and you're able to test these flows, make sure everything's working, make sure that and yeah, you can with my experience with even just generative AI and some of those other tools, like you can create the meanest AI customer, really like really stress test your systems, your contact center every step of the way. That's really cool.
Right. So what the human would have to do is design those test cases, like in a tool, or even like something like something as simple as a spreadsheet. Like, these are the 10 different sentiments that I want to test: an angry person, and a happy person, and a person who giggles when he or she speaks, and so on and so forth. Whatever, right? A crying person, and then these are all the different scenarios that I want to test. These are all the different products that I want to ask about, and go and test 1,000 permutation combination out of this and give me the result. So that kind of testing at scale can happen, and it can happen in parallel. You don't have to do it sequentially, and so on and so forth.
Well, and I think that I know a lot of these are kind of sequential the way where they kind of fall into our use cases, but that leads me to simplifying some of those virtual agent workflows. Uh, yeah, it sounds like that, like through the quality assurance, through understanding your routing. Now you can also use not just to test, but use AI to make improvements throughout your virtual agent flows, your workflows.
Traditionally, IVR virtual agents are very sequential. They run in a flow that if you selected loans, then we might ask you whether you are interested in home loans or car loans, etc. And if you selected car loans, we might ask you, are you an existing customer with a with an old car, or you calling to buy a new car or a used car, etc. So there are sequences. Some of these are logical when you think about them like that. But what you can do is you can do two things. One, you can understand how are people going about these flows, because you can analyze the customer interaction data at scale and try to simplify your flows. Or even so, you can even completely eliminate those flows, like we've been talking for the last hour. Like you can create virtual agents that can simply ask, hi Mike, what can I do for you? And then you can just say, I want to talk about car loans for used cars because I'm buying a used Porsche, and I want to know what loan products you have. And that cuts through all the flows, and we give you the exact answer that you're looking for. The whole, so dialogue engineering and flow engineering, and like these are all different areas within contact center design, that people spend a lot of time on to make sure that the flows are most optimized. This will help simplify that process at large, and in many cases even remove that function completely.
Right, and it gets rid of the auto attendant. That it's the auto attendant was like the again, we talked about these rule-based bots early on, but it was like supposed to be a better experience. But I don't know that I know a single person who loves getting that auto attendant. And it's so funny when you see companies throw like we'll throw 10 options on on the front screen. So you're sitting there listening until option 8 to finally like and for me, again, I always go with the backup of hitting 0.
And exactly at the same time, when the eighth option comes, when that is what you have to listen to, your daughter, your son will call you and you lose attention. So you have to listen to the whole thing again.
Right? Press star to hear them all again. Right now,
Right.
you're calling in, you're saying, "Hey, this is what I want." You're being routed exactly where you need to be. Yeah.
Right. So next one is also kind of very similar. I'm going to cover that. So that is about developer productivity, which is kind of a generic use case, but it does apply to anybody who's trying to produce customer service. So if you're coding virtual agents, if you're coding applications, it's more so from the back office, not from the customer support standpoint. But you can accelerate the development of your products, of your support products, because now there are tools like GitHub Copilot, and AWS Code Whisperer, and Replit, and so on and so forth, that help you write code much faster, do it at scale, and that kind of increases your developer productivity, because now you can write functions much faster, you can debug functions much faster, and you can build applications much faster. So that's another one which I just threw out there. I was just thinking, what else can a customer support function or a customer support company can do? So I think we covered 18. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying. I think I have one last one. I know I'm getting a little running out of ideas, I guess, but the last one, and again, thinking of it more from a you can kind of turn your entire support staff into a quasi sales staff, through a lot of these tools, and it kind of it brings me to thinking about like cross selling, upselling, um, basically being able to, if you get a that angry customer and something's not working, now the AI agent assist, virtual agent, whatever it might be, could also suggest new products, suggest complementary products, suggest, hey, I understand you're having a bad experience with this, but that's because you're missing out on, you don't like the chair because you don't have the ottoman. You don't have somewhere to put your feet up. So here's the ottoman. Like this is gonna solve every, maybe not every problem, but just I'm kind of those types of use cases is being able to enable and empower your service folks to not just kind of placate customers, but really solve the problem and then potentially become a revenue generation center instead of a cost center.
Right. So upsell, cross sell, virtual agent can do that automatically, because a virtual agent has access to a ton of your entire product catalog, and has a recommendation engine, so it understands what the user's problem is and what package would solve that problem and can recommend that, and try to upsell and cross sell the services. Also, human agents, like you said, through agent assist, can get that recommendation and try to upsell and cross sell. uh, Let me just throw in one last one, the 20th use case, and then we will close, which is transactions. So not only can a virtual agent or a human agent throw in recommendations, they can also fulfill transactions. So if somebody says, if the virtual agent suggests to me, actually, this chair is not working out because you need an ottoman, as a customer, I can say, okay, can you ship that to me? And the virtual agent can say, sure, done, because you have my credit card information, you have my address, you know exactly which color chair do I have, which ottoman would be better, and you could just buy it for me, ship it for me, and that's it, transaction in no time. So that would be my 20th.
So, and Arpit, I think that all these use cases for customer service, customer support. What do you think? Can we just completely build a customer support center with no one to run it? Like if we have the right prompts, the right workflows, and everything else. Uh,
Yeah, I would say probably one day, but I'll tell you where we are right now. We can make a contact center which is 80-90% efficient using AI. Humans might still be there to solve very typical, very complicated things which are not common, non-trivial items. So there might be corner scenarios which humans need to solve, because humans are much more creative and can understand what's happening. But I would say 90% of the use cases can be solved by AI now, right? We don't even have to wait. Like all of these 20 things that we mentioned, none of these are things from the future, they are things from the now. And companies can adopt them now and solve 90%, and which is a huge productivity gain. So companies should do that.
yeah, well, and yeah, just looking across, thinking back on some of the use cases, the personalization piece, just yeah, from start to finish, like your entire customer experience can be enhanced with AI. From the time that I
Right.
get on your website or your mobile app or whatever it might be, now it's personalized to exactly what I want to find, or personalized to me, my purchase history, etc. Now that streamlines my process. So maybe I'm scrolling a little bit less, but I'm probably purchasing a little bit more, because it's serving me with exactly what I want. If there's an issue, I can reach out to the virtual agent who can then fulfill it for me as well. Like it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, the possibilities, that's again what gets me so excited about AI. Is just, I guess I'm a bit of a dreamer. I like thinking about like all of these different ways to just improve experiences, processes, workflows, business in general. And it's, yeah, again, all these things can be done today, and we're just scratching the surface, which is
Yeah.
incredible.
All right. Do you think that's the part for today?
I think that's the pod for today. Yeah.
That's the part. Thank you, everybody. See you around next time.
Sounds good.